The hum of the Verdant Blade's engines was a comforting constant in the background, a reminder of the ship's reliability. Captain Zelker stood at the head of the briefing room, his gray-green scales glinting under the sterile lights. The crew had gathered. Reinix, the wiry tech specialist whose 4 eyes blinked in unison as he reviewed data on his holopad, Kalta, the xenobiologist whose sleek fur bristled with curiosity, and Drox, the hulking enforcer who leaned against the wall, arms crossed, his claws tapping impatiently on the metal. Zelker cleared his throat. "We've been assigned a top-priority mission by the Galactic Accord Council. This isn't your standard artifact recovery. We're being sent to locate and retrieve an ancient weapon of immense power." Reinix adjusted his visor, his voice buzzing with skepticism. "Another ancient weapon? The galaxy's full of defunct doomsday devices. What's so special about this one?" Zelker's gaze darkened. "This one is codenamed Human." The room fell silent. Kalta's ears twitched. Drox let out a low grunt, his ridged brows furrowing. "That's a myth," Drox said dismissively. "The Human is just another cautionary tale told to frighten younglings." "It's no myth," Zelker said firmly. He tapped a console, and a hologram flickered to life, displaying a star chart with a highlighted planet. "Our target is located on Sol 3, an abandoned world. You may know it by its other name, Earth." Kalta leaned forward, her eyes gleaming. "Earth? The lost cradle of the so-called Human? I thought it was destroyed millennia ago." "Not destroyed," Zelker corrected. "Abandoned. The records are fragmented, but Earth was sealed off after a catastrophic event. The Council erased its history from most archives, leaving only whispers of what happened there, and warnings to stay away." Drox scoffed. "If it's so dangerous, why are we going?" Zelker's claws tapped rhythmically against the table. "Because the Zarn Dominion is moving. They've discovered references to Human and are actively searching for it. If they find it first, they could tip the balance of power in their favor, and the Accord cannot allow that." Reinix tilted his head. "What do we know about this weapon? A machine? A biological construct?" "That's what we're tasked to discover," Zelker said. He pulled up another image, a fragmented recording showing indistinct figures in battle, explosions and towering ruins. The records describe Human as a species, not a singular device. They were adaptable, innovative and relentless. The few descriptions we have make them sound unstoppable. "Unstoppable enough to wipe themselves out," Drox muttered. "Perhaps," Zelker replied. "But the Zarn believe they can harness whatever power remains. That's why we must act first." The crew exchanged uneasy glances. Even for seasoned explorers, Earth had a reputation. A haunted, forbidden world where nature had reclaimed civilization. "When do we arrive?" Kalta asked, her tone equal parts dread and excitement. 17 cycles, Zelker said. "Study the mission parameters and prepare for anything. Remember, this is a retrieval mission, not an expedition. We go in, secure the weapon, and get out before the Zarn or Earth itself can stop us." The Verdant Blade emerged from hyperspace on the edge of the Sol system. The sight of Earth was both awe-inspiring and unsettling. The planet gleamed like a blue-green jewel, its surface obscured by swirling clouds and vast oceans. "Hard to believe this place was once a galactic hub," Kalta said as she stared at the viewscreen. "Harder to believe it produced anything worth calling a weapon," Drox grumbled. As the ship approached, alarms blared. Reinix scrambled at his console, his fingers flying across the interface. "We've tripped some kind of automated defense system." "What kind?" Zelker barked. "Orbital drones. Old tech but still functional," Reinix said. "They're targeting us." "Evasive maneuvers," Zelker commanded. The ship lurched as the drones opened fire, bright lances of energy streaking through space. The Verdant Blade twisted and turned, but the drone's accuracy was unnerving. "We can't outmaneuver them forever," Reinix shouted. "Then we won't," Zelker said grimly. "Prepare for emergency descent. We're landing on the surface." The ship plunged through Earth's atmosphere, trailing fire as it evaded the relentless drones. The crew braced for impact as Zelker guided the ship toward a dense, overgrown forest. The Verdant Blade crashed with a deafening roar, skidding to a halt among ancient trees that towered like silent sentinels. Sparks flew from damaged consoles, and the lights flickered ominously. "Status report," Zelker demanded. Reinix groaned as he pulled himself up. "Engines are offline. Shield generators are fried. We're grounded." Kalta peered out of a cracked viewport, her breath catching. The forest was alive with vibrant greenery, vines coiling around the remnants of human structures. In the distance, the silhouette of a crumbling skyscraper loomed, a relic of a forgotten age. "Welcome to Earth," she murmured. Zelker stood, his expression grim. "We're on the ground now. The mission continues. Let's find the weapon before it finds us." The crew gathered their equipment, stepping into a world both alien and eerily familiar. The air was thick with humidity, and the sounds of rustling leaves and distant calls echoed around them. As they ventured into the forest, a chilling thought lingered in Kalta's mind. What kind of weapon could thrive in a place like this, and why was it left behind? This chapter establishes the mystery, stakes, and setting while building suspense for the team's descent into Earth's secrets. The air on Earth was heavier than they had anticipated, damp and filled with the scent of wet vegetation. As the crew of the Verdant Blade stepped cautiously out of their ship, their boots sank slightly into the soft, moss-covered ground. The forest surrounding them was eerily quiet, save for the occasional rustle of leaves and the faint hum of unseen insects. Ancient trees loomed overhead, their branches entwined like skeletal fingers, blotting out much of the sky. "Hard to believe this place was once the center of a galactic civilization," Kalta said, scanning the area with her bioscanner. The device beeped sporadically, struggling to make sense of the dense, chaotic ecosystem. "The biodiversity here is staggering. It's like the planet has evolved to heal itself. Or to hide something," Drox grunted, his plasma rifle at the ready. He glanced at a nearby vine-covered structure that had been overtaken by nature. "This doesn't look like healing to me. This looks like the world trying to bury its past." Reinix adjusted his visor, activating its thermal and electromagnetic overlays. "The energy readings are faint but consistent. There's something big about 10 clicks north, maybe the vault we're looking for." Captain Zelker nodded. "Then we move. Stay alert. This planet may be abandoned, but it's not dead." As they trekked deeper into the forest, they came across the remnants of humanity's achievements. Massive skyscrapers jutted out of the earth like jagged teeth, their glass facades shattered and consumed by creeping vines. Vehicles, now rusted and decayed, were scattered like forgotten toys. "Look at this," Kalta said, crouching by a metal plate embedded in the ground. She brushed away the dirt to reveal faded lettering. "New York Transit Authority." "This was a transport hub," Reinix said, studying the area. "Efficient, no doubt. But nothing here screams weapon." "Yet," Zelker said sharply. Further ahead, they stumbled upon a massive statue half buried in the earth. It depicted a human figure, its features weathered and indistinct. At its base, an inscription was just barely legible, dedicated to the indomitable spirit of mankind. "What arrogance," Drox muttered, kicking a loose stone. "A monument to themselves? Or a warning?" Kalta said, her tone thoughtful. "Look around. They built, they thrived, but something stopped them." Reinix interrupted, his visor flashing red. "We're close. The energy source is beneath that structure." Ahead of them stood a massive, domed building partially submerged in the earth. Its surface was scarred but intact, its edges glowing faintly with an unnatural blue light. "The vault," Zelker said. "We found it." They approached cautiously, the air growing colder with each step. The door to the structure was sealed, its surface engraved with strange symbols. Reinix examined it, his fingers tracing the carvings. "This is old, thousands of years at least," he murmured. "But it's still active. Give me a moment." As Reinix worked, Kalta felt the hairs on her neck rise. The silence around them had grown oppressive, the forest holding its breath. "Something's watching us," she whispered. Before Zelker could respond, the ground trembled. A deep, mechanical hum echoed through the air as the vault's entrance began to shift, ancient mechanisms grinding to life. "You've done it," Zelker said. Reinix stepped back as the door creaked open, revealing a dark passage leading into the depths. Cold air rushed out, carrying with it the faint scent of ozone and decay. "We go in," Zelker commanded, his voice steady. "And remember, whatever we find, it isn't dormant by chance. Stay vigilant." Weapons drawn, the crew stepped into the darkness, the light from their gear casting long, flickering shadows. The vault swallowed them whole, and the silence of the forest was replaced by the distant, echoing hum of something ancient and alive. This chapter focuses on the haunting atmosphere of Earth, blending discovery and unease as the crew uncovers remnants of humanity while closing in on their target. It sets the stage for the dangers and revelations to come in the vault. The interior of the vault was a maze of cold metal and flickering lights. The walls were covered in strange, pulsing conduits that seemed to breathe, as if the entire structure was alive. A low hum reverberated through the air, growing louder the deeper the crew ventured. This place shouldn't still be functional, Reinix muttered, his voice tight with disbelief. The power source must be extraordinary. It's human-made, Calta whispered, her fingers trailing over a wall etched with faded symbols. Resilient like everything else they created. Captain Zelker halted the group as they approached a massive chamber. The door leading inside was sealed with heavy locks, its surface engraved with a single word in dozens of languages. Humanity? This is it, Zelker said. The heart of the vault. Reinix examined the locking mechanism, his fingers deftly working to bypass the ancient security protocols. This isn't just a door, it's a containment field. Whatever's inside, they didn't want it getting out. Then why are we letting it out? Drox growled, his grip tightening on his weapon. We don't have a choice, Zelker replied. We retrieve the weapon or the Zarn will. With a final click, the locks disengaged. The door groaned as it slid open, revealing a vast, circular chamber bathed in pale blue light. At its center stood a cryostasis pod, encased in a lattice of machinery that hummed with latent energy. The figure inside the pod was humanoid but unassuming. A woman, her features soft and nondescript, floated in suspended animation. Her eyes were closed, her body perfectly still, as if time itself had forgotten her. This is the weapon? Drox asked incredulously. She looks harmless. Looks can be deceiving, Zelker said, stepping closer. Reinix, can you wake her? Give me a moment, Reinix replied, interfacing with the pod's control panel. As he worked, the hum of the machinery intensified, and the room's lights flickered ominously. The pod systems hissed as the cryostasis process reversed. The woman's eyes snapped open and she gasped, her body jerking as she took her first breath in millennia. The crew stepped back, weapons at the ready. The woman sat up slowly, her gaze sweeping over them. Who are you? She asked, her voice hoarse but steady. Zelker approached cautiously. I'm Captain Zelker of the Verdant Blade. We've come to retrieve you. Are you the weapon known as human? The woman's lips curled into a faint, enigmatic smile. I'm Eve. And if you think I'm a weapon, you don't understand what you've found. Before Zelker could respond, the chamber shook violently. Alarms blared and Reinix's visor flashed red. Defense systems are reactivating, Reinix shouted. We've triggered something. Drox growled. Great. Now we fight our way out? Eve stood, her movements calm despite the chaos. You'll need me to survive this, she said. And you'll need to understand what humanity truly is if you want to survive what's coming. Zelker hesitated, then nodded. Prove it? Eve stepped forward, her expression hardening as the ground trembled beneath them. Watch and learn. This chapter introduces Eve, the supposed weapon, while ramping up the tension with the activation of the vault's defenses. It balances action and intrigue, revealing that Eve may be more than the crew expected. The walls of the vault groaned as ancient defense systems roared to life. Panels slid open, revealing mechanical drones that whirred and clicked, their weapons glowing ominously. The hum of machinery filled the chamber, drowning out the crew's voices. Drox, hold the front. Reinix, disable those drones. Captain Zelker barked as he raised his plasma pistol. I'm on it. Reinix shouted, ducking behind a console to frantically hack into the vault systems. Drox charged forward, his rifle blazing, tearing into the advancing drones with sheer brute force. Calta crouched low, scanning the room for an exit. We're outnumbered. These defenses aren't designed to let anyone leave. Amid the chaos, Eve stood still, her eyes scanning the chamber with unnerving calm. You're thinking like invaders, she said. Her voice, steady and clear, cut through the din. This isn't just a vault. It's a test. A test. Zelker growled, firing at a drone that was flanking them. We don't have time for riddles. Eve turned toward the center of the room, her expression hardening. The systems aren't targeting me. If you want to live, follow my lead. Without waiting for permission, she sprinted to a console embedded in the floor. Her hands moved with practiced precision, activating commands in a long-forgotten human script. The drones paused momentarily, recalibrating their aim. She's doing something, Reinix shouted, glancing at his interface. The drones are adapting. They're not targeting her. Then follow her orders. Zelker commanded. Eve turned to the crew. Draw their fire to the east side of the chamber. It'll give me time to disable the primary node. Drox grumbled but obeyed, leading the drones away with a barrage of covering fire. Reinix scrambled to keep their weapons online, while Calta used her bioscanner to identify weak points in the drone's armor. As the crew engaged the defenses, Eve worked methodically, her movements precise and confident. Humanity built this place as a safeguard, she said, her voice calm despite the chaos. To ensure only those worthy could awaken what was left of us. And who decides what's worthy? Zelker demanded, firing another shot. Eve glanced at him, her expression unreadable. We do. With a final keystroke, the chamber shuddered and the drones froze in place. The hum of the machinery faded into silence, and the room's lights stabilized. You did it? Reinix exclaimed, lowering his weapon. Eve turned to face them, her calm demeanor unchanged. No. We did it. That was the lesson. Zelker stepped forward, his weapon still in hand. What lesson? Eve's gaze met his, unflinching. Humanity was never a weapon in the traditional sense. Our power was our ingenuity, our adaptability, and our capacity to unite in the face of insurmountable odds. That's why the galaxy feared us, and why it still does. The crew exchanged uneasy glances. So what now? Kalta asked. Eve stepped past them, her eyes scanning the open door that led back to the surface. The galaxy is on the brink of repeating the same mistakes we did. I'll help you, but only if you understand that you're not taking a weapon back to the Accord. You're taking a survivor. Zelker hesitated, then holstered his weapon. Agreed. Let's move before the Zarn arrive. As they ascended from the vault, Eve turned back for a final glance at the dormant defenses. Her expression was unreadable, but her voice carried a quiet determination. You wanted a weapon, she murmured. Be careful what you wish for. This chapter concludes the story with a decisive demonstration of Eve's capabilities and philosophy, emphasizing the adaptability and ingenuity that make humanity unique. It sets up potential conflicts with the Zarn and the Galactic Accord while leaving questions about Eve's true intentions.